This isn't gonna work well.
It's fun.
In this video, I'm going to show you how I turned this chaotic and embarrassing excuse for a model railroad into something that I'm very proud of, a pristine canvas now ready to receive my model railroad empire. I'm also going to tell you why I'm living the dream. Hey everyone, I'm Steve Brown and welcome to It's My Railroad. On this channel, we bring you the highest quality modeling videos we possibly can, showing you how to do stuff just like this, the regular guy kind of way. So if you're into that sort of thing, make sure and subscribe, and then don't forget to push that little bell icon so you can catch future videos. Just before we really get rolling along here, I just want to stop and say thank you to my friends over at Midwest Model Railroad. They have been a faithful supporter of the work we do here on It's My Railroad for some time now. And you know, if you're looking for some model railroad stuff, doesn't matter what it is, check them out. They've got some good stuff, good prices, excellent service, family-owned business. You're really gonna dig it. Matter of fact, they're my first stop when I need something here for the Brown-Smith Railroad. Don't know how to get there? There's a link in the description. Make sure you check them out next time you need something. So in the last video I made, I told you that I'm putting my trains away. And frankly, I did. Up in there, there's, well, in a box over there too. I put all my rolling stock and all my locomotives away, except for a couple of pieces I'm using to do some stuff. And the reason I did is because whilst trying to build these scenes for video and stuff, cutting, sawing, sanding, my stuff's just getting messed up. My rolling stock, wheels are falling off and they're dusty and dirty, and now locomotives don't run right, yada, yada, yada. Watch the last video, you'll know what I'm talking about. So I just decided to ratchet it back a notch, put all that stuff away before it gets damaged any further, and just finish what I'm calling the heavy lifting. Finish the top of the railroad, finish the fascias, finish the backdrop and whatnot. And I've done that. And I'm very excited to show you how I did it and how it looks when it's done. So here's the deal. Let's just start with where I started, which is over here at what's going to be a place called Caliente Flats. And as you can see in this is how it started right here. This mess that I've got up there, and there's two places I had this kind of mess, and this is just one of them. So I just got out a box and start putting my rolling stock in a box, start packaging up my locomotives and putting them in a box. This is my favorite locomotive. It's my 2-truck shape. It's just dirty because it's been sitting up here on the shelf for so long. I'm gonna put it away and hopefully get to run it soon. And you can see here, this is a Santa Fe locomotive that I like, and it ran really well until, while working on the railroad, I dropped it a couple times. Now the trucks just fall off. I gotta fix that. And this is another 2-truck Shay that I got, just kind of dusty, sitting back here on the shelf. I got this from a subscriber, Shannon Tapia. And someday I'd actually like to run it on my railroad, but for now I'm just gonna have to put it away. So with all that stuff pulled off, all that remains up here is the track that I had installed, just enough to turn the train around and send it back down to the bottom deck. I have to take all that track off there so I can get that OSB off. It was just something I screwed down temporarily to be able to put the track on. Now we can get to work on actually turning this into my dream layout. I got myself 3 sheets of 4x8 OSB from work. And yeah, they were free. That's the upside. Downside is, and they're 1/16 over half an inch and the surface of it ain't great, but it was free and I couldn't pass it up, so I took it. To get started, I just slid a piece up onto the layout. Then I took my pencil and I ran underneath the existing benchwork. If you guys know, I'm not the greatest carpenter in the world, all right? So even though this is supposed to be 2 feet from here to here, not always exactly 2 feet, but if I just scored along there, then I'm good to go. Now I've got an arc on the bottom deck and on the very, very top up here, and I kind of wanted to match that. I wasn't trying to be exact with it. I just wanted to get close to it. So what I did is I took my level and I put it on the bottom deck and got it level and then made a mark on the underside of the OSB. I did that in about 3 locations. Later on, I was able to take that and just sort of sketch along to get myself the arc I was looking for. Then I cut the straight parts with a skill saw, and then I cut the arc with my jigsaw. And then I brought it back in and I set it up on the layout, and it looks pretty good. Then I just went through and I did that same thing for the entire top deck. So back here, I've got 3 pieces of OSB screwed down, and rather than trying to get this radius sort of cut into that, I just made it all square, and then I cut this little piece out that I got in here. Now what you're gonna see is, I got that piece set in there. Then I took some 1x3s and I clamped them into place to act as supports. Made sure I had the OSB level. Then I screwed the 2x3s right into the frame, and I was able to put the sort of curved piece in. I did that in both locations. I did it the same way. And you know, that's all pretty much standard stuff. It's just taking a saw, making some marks, cutting it, and slamming it up there. But once I had all the pieces in the way I wanted, I took some wood glue and I put the wood glue all on top of the frame. Slid the OSB back on top of it. And then I just shot it down with drywall screws. Okay, now here's the thing, in my opinion, the drywall screws are there to hold the wood down so the glue can bite into it. I don't have to have drywall screws in after the glue's dried, but I'm leaving them in anyway as sort of a double measure, if you will. But if I needed to pull one because it was in the way for something, I'd just pull it out. But I just shot them all straight down in there except for in the back. Now here's the thing, I've got this cantilevered edge. It sticks out 2 feet from the back and it wobbles a little bit right over here. And so what I had to do is come up with a way to secure that, and I did. Now, I didn't record that for this video, but in a Model Railroader Video Plus episode I went into great detail about it. Let me just take you there very quickly and show you how and why I stabilized that deck. Okay, I got all the screws in there we're gonna put in, but now it's time for the reinforcement screws we put in the back, and it's pretty simple. Put the 2.5 inch screw into my little finder, but then the idea is to go in at an angle like this. And what that's just done is it's gone through the plywood, through the framing, and I actually have a shear wall back here. It's all plywood behind the drywall, and down into that. So unless you can catch a stud like right here, that might be a little more difficult for some people, but that's the way the house came, and already I can feel this thing stiffening up. Okay, time for the moment of truth. We just glued this down and I put those diagonal screws in the back of the layout. Now take a look at this. It's not hardly deflecting at all. Even if I put a bunch of weight on it like that, you can see It just sits there, and here's why I think this happens. You've got an L bracket back there, right, against the wall, and way out 2 feet is where I've got the end of the bench work. So by putting weight here on the end, what's happening is it pulls away from the wall like this. I'm exaggerating it a little bit, and it certainly doesn't look like my fingers, but pulls away like this. By putting those diagonal screws in right at the top to something secure, it doesn't allow that to happen. Lets the bracket do what I've designed it to do, which is support the layout, and again, it's really solid. So the next thing I decided to do was put in my backdrops. They're 15.5 inches tall. They're made out of 1/8 inch thick tempered hardboard. And you know, I went to put it in and screw it to the wall because it's supposed to be a shear wall, but the screws didn't bite into any wood. So what I had to do, I put some wood glue behind the OSB and then use those same screws to suck that to the drywall until the glue dries. But over a couple inches, a few inches, there's a stud there, and I sank those all the way in. And I did that around the horn here. Basically, I went in and I installed all of that backdrop the same way. As I put in the backdrop, I ended up putting in the shelf above it too, because I wasn't exactly certain how this was all going to connect. And the thing is, I didn't shoot any video of me making this shelf that you see behind me, but it's pretty easy. It's a 2x3s that are glued and drywall screwed together that come out 2 feet from the back, and they're all just rectangles basically. And I screwed them to the wall. But then to make sure, because they cantilever as well, to make sure they're supported, I put in these cleats right here, these pieces of wood that connect it to the top shelf, kind of hold it up. And as you can see, it's pretty secure. So by the way, I made that shelf to put all my crap up onto instead of keeping it on the layout. But I sort of made that as I went along, and you're gonna see that show up here and there in the video as we move forward. So anyway, I continue to put the backdrop in all the way around to this side over here. One of the things I went ahead and did though is cut out where the track comes through from the back of the layout. I did that now. Now in previous versions of this, I had the track already laid and I tried to do the backdrop and mark out where the track's gonna come through the backdrop. Problem is, in putting in the backdrop, I honked up the rails on the track and had to replace it anyway. So what I did is I basically sketched out where my main line's gonna come back through there and cut the hole in now and stuck it in place. Now that hole's a little undersized, I think, to be honest with you. So I'm able then to later shave it the size that I want it after the fact. But for now, at least I have an opening that I can lay the track through. So anyway, once all the backdrop is in, I just decided let's go for it. I went ahead and I put in the fascia, doing the same thing. It's made from 1/8 inch tempered hardboard. And basically I just sort of cut it 3.5 inches tall and screwed it at one end, and then just started clamping it and screwing it all the way down and around. Well, with the fascia glued on and the backdrop glued and screwed in place, time to move on to finishing this thing up a little bit. So I went through and I taped it and used drywall mud and then sanded it. But I'll tell you the truth, I did a great piece of video on this for Model Railroader Video Plus. So what I'm gonna do is just sort of borrow that footage right now and show you how I did that. All right, so with all the sanding done, we're gonna go through and cover over the seams now. Some of the smaller holes, we'll just put the drywall mud in there, boom, call it a day. But on these bigger seams, here's the thing, earthquakes or any kind of shifting of the house, and it's my belief there's gonna be a crack that'll form right there unless we do some kind of reinforcing. I don't know, maybe it's overkill, but here's what we're gonna do. I got this stuff right here, this netting. It's you buy it at a big box retail store for what they call taping the joints. Now, the tape can either be a paper tape or this kind of stuff. This is more intended for repairs, less intended for just two pieces of drywall that go up together and you want to fill the seam. But I'm going to use this, and it's real easy to install. It's kind of pseudo sticky on one side. Just sort of take it and apply it like this, right down the seam. And then when I get to the bottom, I'm using an X-Acto knife. That's just how I roll. And we just cut it off down here. Okay, so with all the drywall tape up, it's time to put the drywall mud up. For that, I'm gonna use this USG sheetrock brand. So I've got all the drywall mud on and I've got it sanded and we're ready to go. But this brings up a really good point. All of that sanding of drywall mud that I did just put dust everywhere. There's just no way to contain it, all right? I'd have to have a Michael Jackson oxygen tent in here to prevent the dust from getting everywhere. Matter of fact, the day after I sanded that, I got a text from my wife with a picture saying, we need to rethink your sanding in the garage. She had a picture of her windshield on her car, which is kept right on the other side over there. So got a little trouble there, but we've reconciled and it's gonna be okay from here on out. But that's why I need to get that over with now. No more sanding, no more cutting, let's finish doing that sort of thing. Anyway, with all of that sanded down, it's time to get down to painting. And for one more time, I'm gonna take you over to my Model Railroader Video Plus episode where I painted the backdrop. I got a really good piece of video there. Let's paint this thing. To paint this, I have picked New Day 4006-5A as the color. For the paint, we're gonna use this Valspar 2000 paint and primer all in one, and it's a flat interior paint. I have it mixed to that color. Roll it on. It's like magic, people. This is amazing. I'd like to tell you there's a special trick to this, and if there is, teach it to me, because I don't know what it is. I'm just rolling in paint. Well, we're getting a lot closer now. The backdrop is painted this beautiful sky blue. I'm very happy with the color. And the next thing to do is to paint the fascia and the shelves flat black. Now, I bought some paint that it actually doesn't say flat. It says dead flat black paint. because I don't want any sheen, any shine at all. That way, any imperfections I have will not be seen, and it kind of makes the blue pop. It really frames it. I'm very happy with the way it came out. So I took that paint, and rather than trying to screw around with a roller, I just took a brush and I just started painting black paint. I painted the front of the shelf black and the front of these supports that hold the shelf to the top shelf. I painted all that black just to frame it in. I guess at some point I could go back and paint everything back there black just to make it disappear. Because here's the thing, I bought a gallon of dead flat black paint and I used that much of the gallon, okay? So I got plenty of black paint left if I want to paint any of this black. So there you go. I've got this beautiful surface. Matter of fact, I've already started laying out where the main line is going to go. I'm going to show you that at some point. But I'm really happy with this. Let me tell you why I am living the dream right now. Because I have been staring at model railroads for years that have this happening. I've always dug that look. It looks just like a I don't know, a museum piece, a diorama, something that you can build this beautiful model on that I can appreciate and other people can appreciate too. And so I'm pumped. Every time I walk out here and I look at this, I just want to keep working on it. Now I'm more addicted to working my railroad than I was before. So there you go. My wife, Cindy Brown, the first lady of model railroading, she comes out here and she says, you know, now I get it. Now I understand why you're doing this. So let me tell you this. If you're just getting into model railroading and you want this kind of a look, it's very easy to do this. It just takes time and this kind of skill. My carpentry sucks. And so I've had to cheat here and there and sand some stuff down. It's just the way it goes. But it really looks good. I'm very proud of the result. And you don't need something this big to get the same effect. Matter of fact, my friend David Popp, the executive producer over at Model Railroad or Video Plus, he's got a model railroad called the Olympia that he's doing a series on. And if you look at this, it's only like 6 feet wide, but with the black on the top and bottom and the backdrop and the lighting, it just really looks cool. And I've always wanted that. So, baby, I'm living the dream right now in my hobby room. I am pumped about getting my main line run and getting trains to run continuously all the way around to the other side of the top deck, which is what I'm going to be working on between now and the time I see you again. Hey, you know what? I hope you enjoyed coming on this journey with me here in my hobby room on the Brown Smith Railroad. I thank you so much for spending your time with me. I really had a good time doing this. I hope you enjoyed watching the video. And until next time, my name is Steve Brown, and rail on, my friends.